Shalom, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. In the news, all right, going into some current events, things happening, all right, given, a biblical perspective as to why these things are happening, so that the elect of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, in these latter days can know and understand, all right, the times that they're in, as the scriptures say, redeeming the times because the days are evil. Okay, so ultimately grace is getting ready to be up. Okay, we know that pursuant to Revelation, the 7th chapter, once the elect are sealed, the Lord would allow the winds to devour the earth. The winds symbolize prophecy, which leads to destruction. And before destruction, there's going to be, civil unrest, um, left against right, all right, man against woman, class wars, sex wars, race wars, political wars. And we're witnessing all of those things right before our very eyes. Uproars of the people, people rebelling against their governments. But here in America, what we're witnessing, as every day you wake up, all right, from 2020 until now, there has been some form of psychological war waged on its citizens. Even the vid, 2020 scenario where they, told you people you have to, put some juice in you in order to work, in order to, live, that was nothing more than a psychological operation preparing you for the very system that they're getting ready to set up, where you're going to have a micro C-hip, all right, and merge yourself with machine, okay, in order to be considered a human, all right, and the necessary steps are being set around that agenda of the micro C-hip, with all of these operations that we're witnessing, because that's exactly what they are, psychological operations. Not to say people aren't actually, going back to the spirit world, but we know in some cases some of these things are fake. Like there's this situation. Let's get it real quick. Um, with this chick here, which a day before the whole, Charlie, or the dude who got offed yesterday, a day before that, or a few days before that, they prepared you for that with this. I believe it. All right, everybody. Now, I'm not going to play this, but if you look at this video, what's this? So say this Edomite Ukrainian woman was, stabbed. I mean, it's just absolutely, when you look at this, I mean, I knew something was fishy about it, but I mean, when you look at this, it was just preparing you for what they're doing with this guy, Charlie, as we'll get into that. Um, and ultimately, they're making our people the face of terrorism, And I mean, when you look at it, there's no blood, right? No blood. And she was, so say, hitting the neck, right? With the blood is in the seat. Okay. Again, there was no blood, when she, I mean, the dude points it out in this video. If you know me, just hit me up. I'll send it to you, or I'm pretty sure it's circulating, but I'm not going to play it. But, a brother played it on this channel, but you never know these days. He can definitely, take the video down or whatever. But, here it is. She's stabbed and she just sits there. Okay. And no blood gushing. And then she falls out of the chair. Again, she was hitting the neck. Her neck, you don't see any marks. And then there's blood in the seat. right? You hitting the neck. No, I mean, it should be anyway. And, then she fell on the ground. And then, all of a sudden, this blood just, that was it. It wasn't leaking. It wasn't, not leaking. It wasn't running. It just, that was it. All right. Something's weird. I mean, just, a thought on that is, okay, going hand in hand with this article, that a lot of the things that are happening, all right, are a way for these people to wage psychological operation on their citizens, turn them against one another, okay, bring about many agent provocateurs and demons to do things. And pretty much before we know it, we're getting ready to see civil unrest, because what happened to this individual here, okay, uh, I keep forgetting his name, but he was popped yesterday. Um, Charlie Kirk's. All right, Charlie Kirk. What happened to him yesterday? As you can see here, they're saying the FBI is hunting for his killer. You mean to tell me that at a public event, with all of this AI, with all of this technology, with all of this surveillance, with all of these drones and cameras everywhere, okay, a guy was able to, be on a roof, which some people say they saw him, and they heard him say something. He was able to pop this guy, climb down from the roof, and just get away. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, and it looked like a professional hit. Either way it goes, we know that he is on his usual, man, and they're gonna use this to say we have to stop this. We need to wage war on that. Okay, and they move closer and closer to their agenda and what they want. All right, another video I saw. This is all over the place. Everything E got going on is all over the place. Was this one? Okay. Charlie Kirk's assassin is a trans radical. Okay, weapon found with inscription on ammo. Leftists did this. So here it is. You have that left-right paradigm playing out right before your very eyes. Our enemy, of course, he wants to wage war on, all right, the leftist ideology, which includes, BLM and you niggas, receiving aid and a pat on the back and all of these things. They're ready to do away with all of that. As a matter of fact, all right, and I don't know how true this is with the trans thing, all right, but I'm pretty sure it'll all come out. But another video I had here, let me get here.
So this hits differently because Charlie was one of us. And Trump gets hit in the ear. Charlie gets shot dead. They came after Kavanaugh with a rifle to his neighborhood. They went after Musk's cars. They just shot 2 Jews outside the embassy. Think about it. Scalise got shot, barely survived. It's happening. You got trans shooters. You got riots in LA. They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us.
They are at war with us. And basically, this is a witch on the left hand, on the left hand side. These, the news medium is used as a means to, cast spells on people. So basically, the white Edomite male is of the opinion, all right, the straight Edomite male in the Edomite race has to stand up for itself because they're under attack. Okay, and again, we'll show you they're coming with their statistics. Okay, they're coming with, everything that they've always came with before they wage war. And we believe that everything that we're witnessing is a psychological operation. Again, let's get a scripture real quick. When we always get it, okay? Revelation 13 and 11. And I beheld, and the reason these scriptures come out every video is because they're speaking right before our very eyes. Okay, the text never changes. Okay, The prophecies will be a repetitive message until it actually hits. So if looking at these videos and you say, well, you always bring that out. We already heard that. Well, you're not in the spirit. Okay. The prophets ultimately were a broken record until the actual message that they brought through the spirit, it hit. Okay. The beast out of the earth, man. Revelation 13 and 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. This is the revival of Rome, the final beast, okay, that would rule before the Lord returned, man. And we are here. And as you can see, okay, him going down is associated with much madness. Okay, he knows he's on his way out. Okay, he knows he's exposed. He knows he's, a fugitive. So what he's doing is playing with the people's minds, okay, in preparation and justification for waging war on Jake and his own citizens, and okay, bringing about martial law, shutting down the cities to bring forward the agenda of the NWO, because the U.S. motto was all based on freedom, okay? Freedom of speech, freedom, the right to bear arms, you had all of these civil liberties. You have a constitution. You have a Bill of Rights. All of that is in the way of the NWO. And they're using all of these situations. All right. And I believe we're in 9/11, right? We're in 911. Interesting timing. 911, which was a situation that they used to take away your rights, to further surveil and, the United States citizens as, terrorists, man. But again, two horns like a lamb is his left-right paradigm. And it goes deeper, but we always bring out the Democrats and the Republicans, which is the left and the right, which that's a big part of what we're seeing. You got the trans crowd, they're mad at the conservative crowd. You got the liberal mad at the conservative. Okay. You got all of these things happening, man. It's nonstop. Okay. And a lot of it is centered around the two horns like a lamb. Jake is tied to the left. All right. They've pretty much tied being black, being woke, being weird, being, the LGBT to black. You're thrown into that fold. And of course the rest of the tribes. So, the right looked at all of the mess that was made of the left, and they're here to, so say fix it, get these niggas out of as a matter of fact, let's finish this. Salakia, let's finish the scripture. So much going on in my head. It's early. It's just a lot happening, man. It's so much, you know. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb. Okay. And he spake as a dragon. Okay. Two horns like a lamb. And this guy, Charlie Kirk, represented the right of this two horn lamb system. Okay. And he was against trans. He was against Jake and DEI. He was against, which DEI benefited Edomites more than anyone. But, he was one of those bringing out those statistics, basically painting Jake as the biggest villain, the biggest perpetual of crime. Although America has been at war, about 93% of its existence has been filled with war, where they're on the offense. Okay, the stealing of resources, the poisoning of nations with, just all kind of, pseudoscience and madness. Now he's at the end of the road where he's getting called out, and he's using this two-horn lamb system as a means to take people's focus off of the reality of what's happening, and at the same time justify speaking as a dragon. So he has two horns like a lamb, and he speaks as a dragon. So they're getting ready to use, as you can see, we're witnessing this very psyop play out right before our very eyes. They are at war with us. Okay, now this can speak to the left. All right, the left is at war with the right. Fox News represents the right wing. they're at war with us. Now there's talks about a tranny was the so-called shooter. So the left is at war with us. So you got Jake. You've been placed amongst the trannies. That's basically within this whole Edomite supremacist power structure. They've placed you on the left hand spectrum of things. So you're gonna get caught up in that. You're already in it. Okay?
What are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate? And that's the question we're just going to have to ask ourselves. Now, Charlie would want us to put as much pressure on these people as possible. Dana nailed it. This is unacceptable and has to stop. And it has to stop now. And everybody's accountable. And we're watching what they're saying on television and who's saying what. The politicians, the media, and all these rats out there. This can never happen again. It ends now. Greg's right again. This is a turning point, and we know which direction we're going.
All right. So they're gonna wage war. War is getting ready to, ensue in these streets, man. Okay.
From one of the busiest roads in Mobile is a sign that's gaining some traffic of its own. A billboard with no sponsor and no name. Just an image and a vague message. It's time to get the clowns out.
It's time to get the clowns out.
It's time to get the clowns out. Okay? It's time to get the clowns out. So the Psyop is working. Okay? The Psyop is working, and it's gonna end in war. Now I wanted to play some of this. I played it in one of my other news and prophecies, but there's a psychological operation being waged on a war, being waged on the minds of the U.S. citizens. I'm gonna play some of it again. I played some of it in my other video, but I want to play a little bit of this.
The U.S. government is waging psychological war on its citizens. By John W. and Nisha Whitehead via Rutherford Institute. If you feel like your head is spinning these days, look no further than the psychological warfare being waged against you. In the past, this kind of warfare was reserved for our enemies. Whitehead correctly notes, war on truth and independent thought is no longer covert. It is coordinated, calculated, and by design. Patrick Wood, editor. Have you ever wondered who's pulling the strings? Anything we touch is a weapon. We can deceive, persuade, change, influence, inspire. We come in many forms. We are everywhere. U.S. Army Psychological Operations Recruitment Video. From viral memes to military-grade influence operations, the government is waging a full-spectrum psychological war not against foreign enemies but against its own citizens. The goal? Compliance. Control. Conformity. The battlefield is no longer...
Compliance, control, conformity. Okay, that's the reason for all of this. Everything you see is basically centered around them getting the result they want to collapse this U.S. economy and system and bring about a new order. Okay, problem, reaction, solution, man. Okay?
No longer physical, it is psychological, and the American people are the targets. From AI-manipulated narratives and National Guard Psyops to...
AI-manipulated narratives. Now, that one on that bus, looking at it, man, when you see that video that dude did, and you see, look at it, period, I believe that's what that is, But we're living in a time as well where we got to watch what we say. Things are getting ready to get tight. All right. You brothers on social media, on your Instagrams, your TikToks, posting certain videos, saying certain things. Be mindful of what you're saying and doing, man. Again, be circumspect. We're living in evil times. Now, we stand boldly, all right? We bring out this information. We don't hold back, all right? But be mindful of what you're saying as well, okay?
To loyalty scorecards for businesses, the deep state's war on truth.
Remember, what you do, okay, can affect, all right, hundreds of thousands of other, thousands of and hundreds of thousands of believers and people who follow you, all right, or who you on the team with. Think about that. Now, we go back.
And National Guard Psyops to loyalty scorecards for businesses, the deep state's war on truth and independent thought is no longer covert. It is coordinated, calculated, and by design. Yet while both major parties, long in service to the deep state, have weaponized mass communication to shape public opinion, the Trump administration is elevating it into a new art form that combines meme warfare, influencer psyops, and viral digital content to control narratives and manufacture consensus. In doing so, President Trump and his influencers are capitalizing on a propaganda system long cultivated by the security industrial complex. What we're witnessing is not just propaganda. It is psychological warfare. Psychological warfare, as defined by the Rand Corporation, involves the planned use of propaganda and other psychological operations to influence the opinions, emotions, attitudes, and behavior of opposition groups. Today, those opposition groups include the American public. For years, the government has been bombarding the citizenry with propaganda and psychological operations aimed at conditioning us to be compliant, easily manipulated and supportive of the police state's growing domestic and global power. The government is so confident in its Orwellian powers of manipulation that it's taken to bragging about them. For example, the U.S. Army's 4th Psychological Operations Group, the branch of the military responsible for psychological warfare, released a recruiting video that touts its efforts to pull the strings, turn everything they touch into a weapon, be everywhere, deceive, persuade, change, influence, and inspire. This is the danger that lurks in plain sight, a government so immersed in the art of mind manipulation that it no longer sees its citizens as individuals, but as targets. Of all the weapons in the government's vast arsenal, psychological warfare may be the most insidious. As the military journal Task and Purpose explains, psychological warfare is all about influencing governments, people of...
And that's what the serpent was able to do in the garden. It was a psychological operation, a psychological war on the mind of Eve to basically, uproot her from her order, to look at her order as slavery, to look at, her role in, the dream team that was formed, by the Most High God, Yahweh, to bring about order and bring about a legacy of righteousness through the sons of God. The serpent was able to go into her mind and ultimately use her as a weapon against her own household, man. And Adam and his simplicity ate of it, and what came of it is disorder. And now the serpent has his way. Okay? And pretty much, he's got these poor Edomites, roused up, screaming, mad, the pointing the finger at Jake, okay, pointing the finger at the left, okay, and pretty much they're going to capitalize on that, okay. They're going to use this guy because this guy, Charlie, he's more useful in where he's at now than when he was alive for these devils, because they can use that as a means to just go in, man. To basically say enough is enough. Okay, and remember that what happened to him is right off of the back of what happened to that chick on that bus. Okay, just know that you're dealing with the serpent here. Okay. Again, what does the scripture say about this guy? This serpent. Genesis 3 and 1 says, now the serpent was more subtle than any of the beasts of the field. The beasts of the field represents the different nations that were around at that time. Okay. Contrary to popular belief, Adam and Eve were not the first two human beings, all right, created. Adam represented the first human being whom the Lord breathed the breath of life in and created in his image, okay, via giving him order, okay? And pretty much there were other nations around. How do you think Cain was able to get a wife? Why do you think Adam said, basically a man shall leave his father and his mother and cling to his wife if he didn't have parents? Okay? But we have lessons going into that. But again, the serpent represented the sons of the wicked, okay, which would eventually be Cain and his lineage, the biblical Edomites as well. So you have the sons of God, the sons of men, the other nations, and then you have the sons of the wicked, okay. The serpent represents the sons of the wicked, okay. Now the serpent was more subtle than any of the beasts of the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, have God said, ye shall not eat of every tree in the garden? So you already knew what the Lord commanded But he came with a question. Wait a minute. Did he say, you can't eat any of them? You know, and you can read the story. But again, the serpent wasn't a snake. The serpent represented Nachash, okay, which is a person who practices divination, observe signs, learn by experience, diligently observe, practice fortune telling, okay, whisper a magic spell, prognosticate, divine, enchant, okay, a witch, okay, fortune telling. And when you read about Babylon the Great, one of the main things mentioned about her is her sorcery, okay. Isaiah 47:10, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. We're witnessing his wickedness, his ability to use his media and bring about situations that wage war on the minds of the people, that really galvanize them to pick a side, to go out and say, you know what, we got to fight back. We got to do this. This is the problem. They're the problem. Okay? For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thy pseudoscience, man. Thy ability, again, your U.S. government, all right, has a section in their government that's attributed to waging war on people, on the minds of people, man. Your boy Obama, all right, passed a law where it's okay to, trick people and deceive people to get a particular outcome. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Okay, and Obama is small work compared to the elites and what they do, but that was just an example. Yeah, there's laws on the books to where your government can pretty much, bring about false flag scenarios to get an outcome, to rouse up the people. Okay, you have the what's that? The MK Ultra. You know, what's this? Another one? Operation. Where they all speak the same thing. I think I got a video on it where these news stations, Mockingbird, Operation Mockingbird, can look that up as well. I did a video on it, but that's a part of their wickedness, man. All right, thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge it hath perverted thee, and thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and there is none else beside me. He really believes he's in control, but he's going to find out that he's being controlled, and the end ain't good for this guy, man. Therefore shall evil come upon thee, and thou shalt not know from whence it riseth. Okay, now when you jump here, Isaiah 47:12, stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. Going back to the garden. Okay? His ability to wage war on the mind, to get it to bring about chaos, and then, he gets his outcome. Okay? If so be, thou shalt be able to profit. If so be, thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. All of these things are coming about so speedily and tacky as hell, because they're having counsels on what to do next. Okay, they're forced to now talk about, UFOs. They're all over the place, man. They're making themselves into the victim when they've been the villain. They are wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, stargazers, and monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from the things that are going to come upon you. Okay, so when you look at it, it says, stand now with thine enchantments. We just showed you in Genesis, the 3rd chapter, that the serpent is not a snake. It was a man with cunning wisdom. It was a man who used enchantments. See that? Right there. Let's define enchantment. Okay? The state of being under a magic spell. And that's what the American people are under, man. And the water Yahweh Bashim Shah, we receive the eye salve, man, because there's people actually looking at this stuff and they have no idea. Although there's certain, parts of it we don't know. We know through the Holy Spirit the wicked are up to something, man. And even if these are real situations, it's a result of the psychological war they've waged on people. People have been driven mad. Okay? A feeling of great pleasure and delight. Okay? The art of enchantment. Okay? The act of magic or witchcraft, the use of magic. And that's all these news stations. That's what, the AI, the ability to create a situation and it goes viral. And people, look at it as an actual happening. This is the history here in America is filled with, psychological operations that have been painted as actual history. A lot of it is fake. Okay? But it's got them to this point. And now the Lord is saying, look, stand with those same enchantments and let's see if they're going to get you the victory, all right, that you want, man, to bewitch. And the word maga itself is an enchantment. The word maga is a Latin word for what? Sorcerer, witch, sorceress. Okay? So this whole Trump administration is a psyop. It's a psychological operation, just like the Joe Biden, Harris and all of that, Obama, it was all one big enchantment. Okay? Dehumanizing people, man. Okay? Getting them used to certain things, pitting them against one another. Let's go back here.
Of power and everyday citizens. Psyops soldiers aim to influence emotions, notices, reasoning, and behavior of foreign governments and citizens, and deliberately deceive enemy forces. Yet increasingly, these operations are being used not just abroad, but at home. The government has made clear in word and deed that we the people are domestic enemies to be targeted, tracked, manipulated, micromanaged, surveilled, viewed as suspects, and treated as if our fundamental rights are mere privileges that can be easily discarded. Aided by technological advances and behavioral science, the US government has become a master manipulator of minds, perception, and belief and agitator of the masses.
Now, when you get Revelation, the 18th chapter, right? It talks about that, how in Babylon was the souls of men. Okay? The souls of men. Okay? Is one of the things that they had in their possession. Slaves, chariots, horses, flour, wheat, beasts, and they did all of this through trade. But let's see here. Right. Revelation 18 and 23, the light of a candle, which is light. When you go into the Illuminati, that means enlightened, the bearers of the light, and this is a part of their light, deception, bloodshed, theft, putting his bottle on nations and then, watching them devour themselves and each other. Let's get that in Habakkuk, the second chapter. So all of you people are victims of this psychological operation, and it's getting ready to get ugly. Okay? Habakkuk chapter 2 and 15. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink. The scriptures tell you he transgresseth by wine. Wine makes you spiritually drunk. Babylon had been a golden cup. Man, we got to get that. Jeremiah 51, right? And 7. Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that had made all the earth drunken. Okay? The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. They've been driven mad. NLT, the nations drank Babylon's wine and it drove them mad. Okay? When you look at these little monsters in the hood, they're a result of a psychological operation. Everything that you see here is the result of a psyop. Okay, and now they're going even further with their psyops. And it's going to get crazy. Okay? Habakkuk 2:15, woe to him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness, man. And the nakedness represents being without the laws, man, being without order. All right, when you look online all day, you see naked people, people that aren't covered by the covering of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay? I mean, all nations of people. Okay, they're all naked. They're gone. They've been driven mad. And the scriptures tell you can be drunken, but not with wine. Okay, so the wine could be this man's psyops too. 1 second. Isaiah 29:9. Stay yourselves and wonder, cry ye out and cry. They are drunken, but not with wine. They stagger, but not with strong drink. Okay? And that's Jake. They're drunken. Yeah, they're drunk in a carnal sense by drinking too damn much, but the drunken that this is talking about is spiritually. So now the basically you can be a tool for the devil and his plan. Okay, and this is what we're witnessing.
As J. Edgar Hoover once observed, it is the function of mass agitation to exploit all the grievances, hopes, aspirations, prejudices, fears, and ideals of all the special groups that make up our society, social, religious, economic, racial, political. Stir them up. Set one against the other. Divide and conquer. That's the way to soften up a democracy. Here are just a few ways psychological warfare is being waged against the American people. Weaponizing violence. Recurring mass shootings, domestic unrest, and acts of terrorism traumatize the public, destabilize communities, and give the government greater pretext to crack down, lock down, and clamp down, all in the name of national security. Weaponizing surveillance and pre-crime. Digital surveillance, AI threat detection, and predictive policing have created a society in which everyone is watched, profiled, and potentially punished before any crime occurs. The government's war on crime has also veered into the realm of social media and technological entrapment, with government agents adopting fake social media identities and AI-created profile pictures in order to surveil, target, and capture potential suspects. It has all the markings of a digital panopticon optimized for psychological control. Weaponizing digital tools and censorship. Digital censorship is just the beginning. Tech giants, working with the government, now determine who can speak, bank, travel, or participate in society. Digital currencies, which can be used as a tool for government surveillance of citizens and control over their financial transactions, combined with social credit systems and surveillance capitalism, create a litmus test to determine who is worthy enough to be part of society and punish individuals for moral lapses and social transgressions.
That's what's coming. They'll be able to, through all of this hell, they're going to say, we got to get a grip on this. We bring the digital system, the digital ID, social credit score, and these type of people will not be able to live in our kingdom anymore. Okay, and you Israelites, okay, you're a big part of what they want out of here. Again, you represent the left, all right, for the Edomite straight male patriot who wants to bring his nation back, all right, to dominance. Okay, you're standing in the way of that, and they don't even understand that they are the result of a psychological operation. Okay? Because when you look at these Edomites, let's go here real quick. Go to this video a brother did earlier. Priest Ayasha Math. See if I can bring that up. Let's go here. Title of this video. Well, you see the page, GMS Kingdom Minded 144. I woke up and watched this. Corey Holcomb. Subscribe and be edified. Morning news and prophecy, major psyops. See? Propaganda and enchantments. That's all it is. All right. Now I'm going to go to, watch the whole video, but I'm going to go to around 29 where he brings out this guy, Matt Walsh, man. Because this guy, Charlie Kirk, okay, he's along the same line. He's one of the, again, they're tapping back into their pseudoscience. Okay, and they're painting themselves as victims, and they're putting Jake out there as the, the hoarder of resources. All right, check this out.
Scientific racism. Okay, and it reminds me of this guy here, and I'm wondering, what's going to be next.
Even though America's Constitution explicitly.
I wonder what's going to be next with this guy, Matt Walsh. All right, which he's all right, and he's more outright, okay, scientific, racist. Okay, because you go into here, he's hard on. So let's play this. Let me see.
The city of Austin is doing a big rebrand. They're getting rid of the old logo because it's not a brand. And the old logo is...
No, this is not the one. Yeah, so like you just got these shorts, so trying to get 2 or 3 of Matt Walsh because this double, all right, he had the documentary, What is a Woman? Okay.
Yeah, and see, they're coming against when you look at the mindset, they're coming against the ubiquitous community, they're coming against wokeism. But they're coming against the left, they're coming against the Dems, the liberals. And, you Jakes don't understand. Y'all were lumped in amongst the left. Okay? Although they're attacking all of the woke madness. And you niggas you're a part of that. Because the Democrats pity pat you and, talk about all of these civil liberties, civil rights, and the marginalized, oppressed people. It's a snare. They led you into a burning house, started by your beloved Dr. Michael Luther King, because his name ain't Martin. Michael Luther King. The whole civil rights, narrative was to take you from wanting anything on your own and standing up, and because Jake, was doing good, but they replaced, you wanting your own thriving communities and working together with marching for civil rights from the so-called white man. Marching to sit at the table and eat a goddamn sandwich with the white man, drink out of his fountain. That became your fight. Okay, and certain white Edomite, politics use that to their advantage. Okay, it led you into a burning house, man. Now today you have BLM, which is totally something made up by Esau. Okay? But niggas fell for it, man. They got pictures of you rioting and, destroying cities. And then they can just point you out and say, look at these niggas, man. It's pseudoscience. It's a snare. It's a trap. And then they're able to put this on the news. All right, they're able to, and then go into thug gang culture and all of these things and just say, well, look, so you got the trans, the niggas, the DEI. Okay, basically they're looking for a reason, all right, to wage war, and they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it, man. Ain't no ifs, ands, and buts. They're gonna come down with great wrath. But listen to this devil.
Well, she pissed a lot of the alphabet community off, and he's hard on on Jake, the nigga woman getting the food stamps. So let's play this.
Statistically, a white person is 30 times more likely to be killed by a black person than the other way around. We know that. That's just true. In 2019, there were about 560,000 violent interracial incidents between blacks and whites.
30 times.
470,000 of them were black on white. That's 85%. 85%. 240 black people were killed by whites. 560 white people were killed by blacks. And this is all in spite of the fact that white people make up 60% of the population. Blacks are 13%. Just by raw numbers, not even per capita, but raw.
And they pull these statistics out, right? And it becomes truth. They start to live by it. This is that pseudoscience we've been warning you about. 2 Thessalonians. And again, what group warned you that they were going to tap back into their pseudoscience? Great Millstone warned y'all of that through the Holy Spirit, man. We told y'all that. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. So the wicked will be revealed. Okay. Call hello Yahweh Shimei Shai. Lying wonders. A big part of his enchantment is pseudoscience. Okay? And we've done the videos to show you how pseudoscience was basically used to justify all of the rape, robbery, and murder that they've done throughout the four corners of the earth, because the people they were waging war against were, in their eyes, low IQ. Their skulls weren't big enough. They're not fit. Okay, they're just not superior. We're superior. We have a higher IQ. You know, they give you these sciences. They give you these things. You know, they got billionaires to fund gang culture. You know, take over rap music, and niggas just become degenerates, hopping up and down with tattoos everywhere. And they can always point at you. Okay, and the crime going on in your neighborhoods to say that you represent crime. You represent, you know, evil. You represent, you know, and it's science. It's statistics. The statistics is not racism, nigga. I'm not being racist. I'm giving you statistical fact. This is the serpent, man. Pseudos. Okay? A lie. A conscious and intentional falsehood. Okay? Remember, he's a fugitive. Okay? Giving his testimony. This is his testimony. We're giving our testimony. Now they're giving their testimony. Okay? And a big part of their testimony is centered around a psychological operation that they believe is going to get them the victory. In a broad sense, whatever is not what it seems to be. These statistics are bizarre. Not to say, again, we get on our people more than anybody. We've been had, all right, nigga fatigue, man. But come on, man. The numbers they be pulling out of their ass is just crazy. Of perverse and pious, deceitful precepts, man. Of falsehood, a lie, pseudos. And that's what runs this world, is pseudoscience. Okay? Hold up. I think I remember I did a chat GPT on it, you know, how pseudoscience such as low IQ and racial superiority used to justify the colonial period and slavery. Yes, pseudoscience such as racial superiority theories, fabricated notions of intelligence were heavily used to justify colonialism and slavery, you know? So, you know, I have the chat. I can send it to bros, you know, if you know me, you know, just get in contact. But you can look it up as well. I said, is Trump and Musk using these ideas today under the guise of MAGA? You're asking whether Donald Trump and Elon Musk are invoking pseudo-scientific ideas. And it's not just Trump. The guys like Matt Walsh, the guy Charlie Kirk, they were all into this. Okay? You know, to justify their agendas under MAGA, Make America Great Again. So, you know, and he breaks it down. Yes, that's exactly what they're doing. Elon Musk, you know, basically saying the you know, the Edomite male is a victim, you know. We got to stop this, you know, and all over social media, all over the world, you have groups of Edomites like, yeah, fuck yeah. It's a psychological operation, man. Not to say Jake ain't wicked, you know, but come on, man. So, yes, they are basically tapping back into that pseudoscience. I'm not going to read it all, but was Christianity used to spread white supremacy? Yes, absolutely, man. You know, and these dudes are, you know, like Matt Walsh and, you know, Charlie Kirk, they're supposed to be Christians. It's the same Edomite, you know, Christian nationalist agenda, man. Okay. But yeah, you could look that up. Let's go back here. I know I'm all over the place, but hey, so is life. Shit, how can you not be all over the place sometimes? You know, certain things are focused, but it's so much. You know, you got to do this, you got to go here, you got to cover that, got to do, you know, it's too much. But we do what we can. That's why you have a body. You know, certain things I can't cover, brothers. You know, certain things I can't articulate, certain brothers can. You know, just got to watch.
numbers, there are more black interracial killers than white. That should be impossible. There are 171 million more white people in the country, and yet there are more black interracial killers. By raw numbers, the young black males in particular are an order of magnitude.
And that's a lie. There aren't more Edomites. There's more Jake here. Again, Esau's become small among the heathen, and one of the ongoing narratives amongst Esau is their lack of reproduction. You see?
More violent and more likely to commit crimes than any other group in the country. Black men are 5 or 6% of the population. They commit the majority of murders in the country. That makes black males in America more dangerous than perhaps any other demographic in the entire world, let alone in this country. Statistically, a white person.
So young Jake, the most dangerous thing in the world. Okay, not the nation that's been at war. All right, 93% of its existence. Okay, and this is the talking points that they're pushing. Okay, and they're just putting numbers out their ass, man. Okay, so this Matt Walsh character is similar to this guy Charlie Kirk. So I'm wondering if they're going to push him to the front, and make him the voice of scientific racism.
Because young, all right, you got the YNs, you got the YEs. The young Edomites are looking at these Charlie Kirks and guys like this, and they're latching on to it. Okay, you got let me show you this. See if I can find that. I think I had it here. It's a preacher. They're all tapping back into this.
Of the Lord Jesus Christ. Great. We're not talking about that person, right? But we're talking about when you go into a crowd of people. If you go into a crowd of strangers and they're white strangers, there's some danger. If they're black strangers, there is 30 times more danger. Them's the facts. And it is actually a failure.
You see that?
Okay. It's going to be, I'm just, we're just going through things. It's a lot, to go through. Like I said, I had something else I was going to go into, but this happened, and it was like, okay. Like, yeah, it's double. Okay, it's creeping on the come up. Okay. So let's play about 2 more of his clips.
The city of Austin is doing a big rebrand. They're getting rid of the old.
Because he had another one. They believe that, you all right, Eve. Okay. And see, this is what they want to push as the logo of Jake. Okay. The young nigga and, all right.
We should not be subsidizing obesity.
Welch Juicy's got 2 cases of these. A box of Sam Green chips. Sit a bit over. They got these chips. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Ballpark hot.
See, niggas like this their whole DNA is going to be just eviscerated here in a fire in Babylon or trotted over by the troops, Yuck, but these Edomites are going and showing stuff like this on their platforms and basically saying that these are the people who our tax dollars are going to, so these niggas can buy boxes of Twinkies and hot dogs and just suck up the resources. But what they're not telling you is also Edomites are the biggest receivers of welfare. And this dude, Matt Walsh, was asked about the small hat, and he went silent. Now, one thing I will say, that guy, Charlie Kirk, he talked about the small hat. He said a few controversial things about the small hat. Could that be why they took him out? Who knows?
Some teriyaki noodles. Some kind of a pepper ground beef. Pecans on the sticks.
Who laid with that thing, man?
Seasoning salt, pickles, powdered donuts.
I mean, I got hypertension just from watching. I died of a heart attack, came back to life, and then got diabetes and died again, then came back to life, all while we were watching it. Nothing but processed junk food. Nothing, no real food. This goes on for 4 or 5 minutes. This woman is showing off all the stuff she bought. She bought a truckload of stuff with EBT, and none of it is food. We should not be subsidizing obesity.
Welch juice.
So, and that's the picture, that they want to push of Jake, the young, degenerate nigga, okay, or the welfare case, okay, of the obese Eve. Even that statue they had in New York, with the obese nigga woman, with an attitude, okay. So this is the image they want to portray because they want to justify, all right, Jake being the problem of society, whether they're sucking up the resources or they're serial killers, okay. So
yep, and it's going to be tied to that left-right, that left-right, all right, rivalry.
This is the narrative that they're pushing. This is right before, they gearing up to go to Chicago. Okay, you have this shooting. All right. This is right before. All right. And also you have this. Okay. Let's pull this up. All right, because you got Jake, that's on the Trump train. Okay. Well, let's get this.
Yeah, he brought up that video where people question that stabbing look on the bus looks fake. Let's go back here. Listen to a little bit more of this. And again, we, sometimes we just wake up and we see certain things. We put it together and just press record. So it's not as polished as if I'm sitting at home. But Lord willing, you're edified.
And reward them for adhering to government-sanctioned behavior. For example, the Trump White House recently rolled out a pilot program using a loyalty scorecard to evaluate businesses, echoing China's social credit system. Businesses deemed non-compliant with patriotic messaging or flagged for ideological extremism based on their social media posts, public statements, or advertising content are at risk of being barred from federal contracts. Weaponizing compliance. From the war on terror to COVID mandates, nearly every government crisis response has been weaponized to normalize surveillance and control, and demand obedience in exchange for perceived safety. Weaponizing entertainment. Hollywood and the Pentagon have a long, symbiotic relationship. The military provides equipment, personnel, and funding in exchange for favorable portrayals of war, surveillance, and state power. As Elmer Davis, a CBS broadcaster who was appointed the head of the Office of War Information, observed, the easiest way to inject a propaganda idea into most people's minds is to let it go through the medium of an entertainment picture when they do not realize that they are being propagandized. Weaponizing behavioral science and nudging. The government's nudge units use psychology and data science to steer public behavior. It may begin with paperwork, but it ends with worldview manipulation, conditioning the population to think and act as the state prefers, all while maintaining the illusion of free will. Weaponizing desensitization. Lockdowns, SWAT raids, and threat alerts desensitize us to authoritarianism. What once shocked is now routine. That's by design. The more accustomed we become to surveillance, policing, and crisis, the more willingly we embrace it. Weaponizing fear. Fear is the preferred tool of totalitarians. It divides the public into factions, persuading them to see each other as the enemy, empowers the government, and numbs rational thinking. The more frightened the population, the easier it is to control. This Machiavellian scheme has so ensnared the nation that few Americans even realize they are being manipulated into adopting an us against them mindset. Weaponizing genetics. Fear doesn't just condition us, it can alter us. Trauma and fear responses can be encoded in DNA and passed on to future generations, as studies in epigenetic inheritance have shown. Weaponizing the future. The Pentagon's Chilling Megacities training video predicts that by 2030, armed forces would be used against civilian populations to solve domestic political and social problems. Under Trump's expanded domestic security powers, the National Guard has been increasingly deployed in civil contexts, most recently to address squalor and crime in Washington, D.C. and other parts of the country. None of this is speculative. It's well documented. In 2022, the Pentagon was forced to investigate reports that the military was creating fake social media profiles with AI-generated photos and fictitious news sites to manipulate users. These are the modern tools of psychological warfare. But the blueprint goes back decades. The end goal of these mind control campaigns, packaged in the guise of the greater good, is to see how far the American people will allow the government to go in reshaping the country in the image of a totalitarian police state. In the 1950s, the CIA's MKUltra program tested LSD, electroshock, hypnosis, and other behavior modification techniques on civilians and soldiers, American citizens, often without their knowledge or consent. CIA agents hired prostitutes to lure men into bugged rooms, then dosed them with drugs and observed their behavior. Some detainees were interrogated to death in efforts to erase memories or induce compliance. It wasn't until the 1970s that a portion of the CIA's criminal activities under MKUltra came to light. Congress's Church Committee investigations revealed that the CIA had spent over $20 million attempting to control human thought and behavior, reportedly as a means of programming people to carry out assassinations, i.e., national defense. Similarly, the top-secret Montauk project allegedly was working to develop mind control techniques that could trigger crime waves. These were not fringe experiments, they were official policy. As journalist Lorraine Boissonneau noted, the same methods that had once been used to train American soldiers ended up being used to extract information from terrorists in Abu Ghraib, Iraq, and Guantanamo Bay. Fast forward to the present day, and it's clear the government's Psyops warfare has not ended, it has simply gone digital. Today's Psyops rely on mass media, AI, algorithmic censorship, and behavioral economics, not LSD. But the goal remains the same: shape thought, induce obedience, silence dissent. In 2014, for example, a fusion center in Washington state mistakenly released records detailing government interest in psychoelectronic weapons, remote mind control tactics allegedly capable of controlling people or subjecting them to varying degrees of pain from a distance. More recently, COVID-19 gave the government a global platform to deploy fear-based compliance strategies. Science writer David Robson explains, fears of contagion lead us to become more conformist and tribalistic.
So they're going to use fear, the pointing the finger as a means to, crack down, as a means to bring in more AI surveillance, as a means to just go in, and, it's all going to end in, it's all going to end in them pursuant to what's written in the scriptures to bring about that chip. Okay. Revelation 13:16. As he calls it, all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and their foreheads. And this is going to be centered around peace and safety, which is going to be needed because of so much chaos. First Thessalonians 5:3, for when they shall say peace and safety, then shall sudden destruction come upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Okay, so but ye brethren are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. So these things happen and shouldn't have you, eyes wide open. Now, yeah, of course, we're excited, but keep in mind what we know the end all be all. We know the will of the Lord. A lot of our people are going to be snared into reacting and doing things that aren't going to be conducive to salvation. They're going to lose, but we ain't in that darkness, man. Ye are the children of light and the children of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. All right, the 2/3, right? Therefore, let us not sleep as others, but let us watch and be sober. Let's look up this word watch, man. Why you think brothers up early in the morning doing these videos, man? Gregorio, okay, like Gregory, to watch, metaphorically, to give strict attention, to be cautious, to be active. And you got to be cautious in what you say, what you post on social media, what you do. It says to take heed lest through remission and indolence some destructive calamity suddenly overtake one. And this is going to happen. You got a lot of these Israelites still, doing all of this wickedness, but ultimately we're supposed to be in the spirit of being sober, man. Verse 7, for they that sleep in the night, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night. But let us who are of the day be sober, putting on a breastplate of faith and love, for an helmet the hope of salvation. For God hath not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, who died for us, that whether we wake or sleep, we should live with him together. Okay, so, there's also, all kind of shit, man. Every, 3 fired FBI officials sued Kash Patel, saying he bowed to Trump administration's campaign of retribution, whatever that means. But you got Nepal, civil unrest in Nepal, which I was going to bring that out, but we'll be back with more. I just wanted to, get a few things out, hopefully y'all edified. Shalom.